Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to RickCast, episode 131. We're here earlier tonight. As I've been telling you the rest of the week, we're going to go a little bit early because I'm very honored and I'm happy to have Owen Schroyer. He's not going to be live, but I'm doing an interview with him at 7 p.m. Central Time, at which I will upload that. That video will be a part of Friday's show because I want to make sure that it is right and ready to go. So I will have that done. So that's why we're going a little bit early, so we can be done by like 6:30-ish, maybe a little bit later. And then I can clear the deck out and make sure Owen's ready to go. And we'll have a good interview for you guys on Friday. Yep, on Friday. So what's going to happen on Friday is I'm going to do a quick roundup of some stories, just kind of catch up on what's happening. And then it's going to be about a 30-minute interview, and the last 30 minutes of the show will be with Owen. And, of course, the interview will be separate as well after for everybody to watch and see as well. So it's all good either way, and it's going to be a great time. And for those of you that are able to make it on time early, the bar rats, the bar opened a little bit earlier tonight than usual. And so most people are still doing things. I got to get a haircut. This is one rogue little patch is just annoying me. Yeah, I'm going to have to take care of that tomorrow. I'm going to have to assess this situation tomorrow. So I think I put it off long enough. And I know because I just ordered a beard trimmer. So that way I can actually take care of this thing. Anyway, you don't even know about that. You'll see it on either Thursday or Friday. I did not realize that 28 years later comes out on Friday. No, I don't have a LTC class this Friday, luckily. So it looks like I'm going to try and get to the earliest screening of 28 Years Later, which at the theater I go to, the 20th, right? They have an 11 a.m. How long is the show? Hour 55. So I'll be done by 2. So I could actually get a yeah, I can get a review up for 28 Years Later by 3 p.m. Friday, which I will do for you all. Since I completely forgot that 28 Years Later was coming out. Not that I forgot, I just didn't know the time frame. And now that it is here, so I will go check that out for y'all at that time. And so let's see what's going on with all of that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So Ted versus Tucker is kind of the climax of this MAGA civil war that I've been keeping my eye on, and I have engaged in myself. I have engaged in this MAGA civil war myself, or non-civil, or who non-MAGAs. I don't get anybody, because there is a solid fraction, and it is very interesting how the propaganda has moved in certain directions. I'm still of the belief that President Trump wanted, even though the reports are coming out now that he knew that the Israelis were going to attack, and that he hasn't greenlit the final option. I think that's a ruse. I think Trump was really trying to get the deal done. It didn't help that like the 61st day, the Israelis were like, too late, and they went out and they just started bombing the crap out of everything. And I think Trump was put in a pretty bad position. And I think Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government, not the Jews, if you want to go with that, but the Israeli government is the one who is trying to drag Trump into the war. And I got some examples from the Jerusalem Post and others that people are dismissing the idea of regime change pretty much out of hand because, trust me, bro, is essentially the reasons. And I'm nervous about this for the simple reason, and I'll just tell it to you now, and I'll reaffirm this over the course of the show or over the course of the segment, in the first segment. And Elad Eliyahu, or whatever his name is on Timcast, voiced it last night in their members-only show. An ultimate solution, total victory, unconditional surrender is regime change. Because he said it, and I wish I could pull the clip, without it, without a regime change, you're going to be back in this situation. This is what he said. I'm paraphrasing. If you do not change the regime in Iran, you will be back in this situation in 5, 6, 7 years. A total regime change ensures that this will never happen again. And that is the line of thinking that scares me that Trump will be pushed into. Everybody on X is swearing up and down, there's no reason to go to Iran. You guys are foolish if you think boots are in the ground. I've tried to be as cordial with as many people as possible in these exchanges, except one guy who is just like bleeding Israel first and just wanted my attention. And that's fine. You can want my attention. It is worth the time. But the fact is, he's like, Israel's our greatest ally, and we got to do all these kinds of things and yada, yada, yada. I think people misrepresent. Israel is our most important asset. I do not believe they are an ally. We are an asset to them. They are an asset to us. Our allies are people like the South Koreans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others. But Israel, I believe, is an asset, an intelligence asset, and so forth. And we are a military asset to the Israelis. You could say I tomato on that, but that's how I feel in that regard. But I am worried that Trump, the strikes were done. Maybe even Trump said, we'll do the attack if I don't get a solid answer from the Iranians. It could have even been something as offhand as that. Bibi's pushing for it. Bibi's pushing for it. Bibi's pushing for it. And Trump's like, fine, if there's no pathway to a deal, we'll strike. And Bibi's like, there will never be pathway. So he's like, 61st day, we're going. And that's how I feel this thing is unraveling. So it's not that I am attacking Trump. Okay. I've attacked Trump for other things like IVF and other kinds of nonsense. The AI stuff and Palantir and all these other kinds of things. I've criticized him for those things. Based on Trump's own words about, wanting to see death stop and all these kinds of other things, I don't think he is big on getting the U.S. involved in a war in the Middle East. And people try to say, you did vote for this because Trump has said for 10 plus years that he doesn't want the Iranians to have a bomb. Well, when did the Iranians not having a bomb in military action become hand in hand? That's really the question. When did military action and Iran not getting a bomb go hand in hand? I just go back to the Patriot, where Mel Gibson is in the Congress for South Carolina, and they said, we've petitioned the king. And he says, then petition them again and again and again and again if it prevents war. And I think Trump actually wanted to get a deal done. I think the Israelis put him in a bad spot by launching this attack. I really do. And now people are expanding the field out. Oh, what about October 7th? Why didn't the Israelis go in on October 7th? Joe Biden and so forth. Oh, okay, so you think Joe Biden would have stopped you if you started a war with the Iranians? Nobody in the White House would have cared about it. They actually probably would have preferred if Israel started a war with Iran during Joe Biden's presidency, because we all would have stopped talking about the fact that Joe Biden was a walking corpse. So that whole thing completely goes out the door on that. I don't believe it. I think that's a straw man argument. You can beat me up in the comments if you like. That's fine. You're more than right. You're welcome to, and I'll try to be as receptive to them as possible. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, I had like I was saying, I had an interaction with one person said, nobody's talking about putting boots on the ground there. And I quoted Lindsey Graham, and I get it. I'll give you, it is Lindsey Graham, but Lindsey Graham is the mouthpiece for everybody else. My old saying when I used to teach is, if one kid asked a question, 5 more kids have the exact same question. If Lindsey Graham is running his mouth off about regime change, then there's probably half a dozen to a dozen more senators that believe the same thing. And I guarantee you the Pentagon believes the same thing too. And that's the problem with the strike. If there was no strike, Trump could keep them at arm's length and say, we're not going to do anything because there's been no escalation in conflict. Now that there has been an escalation in conflict, Trump is now in a bad position. And that is all the people that Tucker and myself and I politics makes strange bedfellows, does it not? Steve Bannon and Jack Basso, people that I've been openly critical of. And of course, Bannon starting to moonwalk that back pretty quickly. And so Jack Bosiewicz will as well. The idea that we don't need to have military action in Iran, while others are like, we got to bomb them because if they get a nuke, it's over, even though Pakistan has a nuke in the region. And all the things that you could say about the Iranians having a nuke, well, bad actors are going to get them. I mean, pretty sure the last time I checked, the Pakistanis harbored Osama bin Laden in their country. They're going to say we weren't aware of it. But if you look at the schematics and where it was laid out, the Pakistanis, or as Obama would say, the Pakistans, they were harboring Osama bin Laden. So I don't know if they're like super up and up on all of these kinds of things. And now you have Russia coming out, not doing a warning. I don't have any, this is all just kind of generalized things. Russia's coming out and saying, listen, if you take out the Supreme Ayatollah, Khamenei, or whatever his name is, if you take him out, it's going to be like Iraq times 100. I know. I just did the 9/11 to 9/11 times a billion. It'll be 10 times worse than Iraq because you got 90 million people, which that's why you want to know the population of it. Just descending into chaos, and then you will have all these weapons, all this money with no leadership because it will fracture. We've seen this in Libya, we've seen this in Syria, we've seen this in Somalia, we've seen this in every frigging country in the Middle East that this happens in. Every single country in the Middle East that we try to restore order to or regime change or get ourselves involved in becomes even worse than it is at the present time. And that's if these United States don't get too heavily involved and they just somehow manage to remove the leader of Iran. And you have Russia saying, like, don't do it because the entire region is going to be even worse off. Now, Libya is bad. Should Libya have nukes? Not Libya, I'm sorry, Iran. Should they have nukes? No, just like the Pakistanis shouldn't have nukes. Fortunately, they do. North Korea shouldn't have nukes. Guess what? They do too. England is going to be a Muslim country in 100 years. I don't know what your policy is going to be about them then. Nobody seems to want to answer that question. What about, when England becomes a Muslim majority company that you're not going to really want to be too friendly with, because if we all know anything about Muslims and what happens to them after they become the dominant party in their country, the things that go on after that. But the fact of the matter is, these questions should be allowed to take place, and the rapid shutting down by your MAGA influencers coming out hardcore against anybody, and that's the reaction to the Tucker Carlson. I was really disappointed, and not that it matters. I'm a nobody on YouTube. And the Louder with Crowder guys, excuse me, and the way they handled Tucker Carlson's interview, where they thought it was gotcha journalism. It's not really gotcha journalism to ask a senator who's on the Foreign Relations Committee, right? Senator Ted, Chad, let me know. Am I wrong? Ted Cruz is on the Foreign Relations Committee. Foreign Relations Committee. Should have done this before. If this is your first time watching the show, you understand this happens quite often. He's a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he's the chairman of the subcommittee on Africa and Global Health Policy. I don't care about that. But he is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and he's one of 100 U.S. senators representing 50 states, right? 2+2. And as we go through this, I'm kind of just setting the deck now, because we're not doing any warm-ups or anything. We're getting right into it. The idea and the pass that I'm seeing from people today, people that are very good people, right? They're very good people, and I don't hate any of them for making their arguments. But my question to them, when they say, oh, well, it's ridiculous that FDR needed to know the population of Japan before World War II started. Well, we weren't taking out Japan at the beginning of World War II. You know, when we did need to know the population of Japan, when people were talking about invading it. Yeah, remember at the end of World War II, when we were talking about invading the landmass of Japan, and everybody said they have this many people and every single person is going to fight and blah, 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 blah. And that's why he decided to drop 2 nukes on that country. So knowing the population of the country is actually a pretty important thing. So this idea, let's just get into it. The first story we're going to talk about is Tucker versus Teddy Cruz, the idiot senator from Texas. Huge disappointment. But then again, most senators are disappointments. And it's really not a shock to see at this point. And so let's come on, share. There we go. Little slow tonight, buddy. So this idea, you have 5 takeaways. So after this show last night, we had a clip drop from Tucker Carlson, an exchange between him and Ted Cruz, and of course, as X reacts, X reacts. And of course, at first I said Ted Cruz is a clown, because Ted Cruz is usually a clown. I mean, he's the guy who thought he was going to go toe-to-toe with Trump in 2016, and then he pretty much has groveled at his feet ever since. And it's really, like I said, the apex, the climax of this MAGA internal conflict, which I think will have long-term ramifications that many people are not taking into account. Because the do whatever it takes to make sure Iran does not have a nuclear weapon crowd, which most of those people will say, yeah, we don't want new wars, but Iran can't have nukes because they're bad people. It reeks of WMDs in Iraq. And I know, now you even had Greg Gutfeld, when I wish I had this clip. Greg Gutfeld comes out and says, guys, we need to put everything else behind us and just trust the plan, essentially, with Trump. No, it's not because I don't trust Trump. I trust Trump about as much as I trust any other politician, but I understand that the entire deep state around him is who I do not trust. I don't trust the pentagram for any of these kinds of things. So 5 takeaways from this interview. So Tucker Carlson published a 2-hour interview with Ted Cruz on Wednesday, during which the two conservative firebrands debated Trump's foreign policy, the future of the Middle East, and America's place in the world. The conversation was decidedly contentious, at times deteriorating into shouting and insults, punctuated by a short clip of that Carlson published, which we'll watch in a second, showing him quizzing Cruz on Iran's population, which everybody has been arguing about. Everybody has, and these ads are ridiculous. Can I get rid of this? No, I can't. I got to watch your stupid ads. And this is the crux of everybody's debate all day today that sent us into yet another round. If you haven't seen it by now, here it is.
I don't know the population.
Let's go back.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population.
So I'm sorry. I'm going to stop this and go. I'm going to assume that most of you have seen this. And, Gerald from Louder with Crowder. I like the Louder with Crowder guys. I watch their show every day. I'm a member of Rumble. I'm a member of Rumble Premium. I support everything they do. I think they're great for free speech. Totally wrong on this one. Why do you need to know the population of the area? Why do you need to know the population of it? Generally, it's good to have a basic Google search understanding of the general population and the dynamics of a country you seek to get involved with militarily. It just is. Okay, these things are your basic information, especially we've had Iran in our sights for 40 plus years. And I have a clip for that I'm actually going to get out right now. We've had since for 40 plus years, in particular, since 2007, we've had our eye on Iran. Iran is the last country that these United States has been looking to overthrow. We absolutely want to do it. We've been desperate to do so. And the idea that we're just talking about Iran now and we've never done any background work and we don't have pre-plans to invade Iran. And that was my response to a bunch of people today. They said, how do you think there's any idea that we're going to invade Iran? Well, the idea is this. I'm pretty sure that we've been talking anywhere in government. They've been talking about invading Iran. Listen to this 1 minute and 30-second clip from 2007. This is General.
We're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iran.
This is General Wesley Clark.
And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon, and one of the generals called me, and he said, sir, you got to come in. You got to.
So this is in 2007. We're going all the way back to 2001. Okay? They're 24 years now.
Come in and talk to me a second. I said, well, you're too busy. He said, no. He says, we've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. And he said,
and so when I say that these guys
From the
need
country
to have
you
an
see.
idea idea of when you ask what's the population of Iran, and Ted Cruz is like, I don't know what it is. You guys have been talking about this for 24 years. There has been plans on the deck for 24 years. There's been one, just like how the Patriot Act kind of came out of nowhere. That's because there were 4 different plans that they pretty much streamed together in the wake of 9/11. That's how the Patriot Act, it was 4 different bills that they were able to wrap in together, call it the Patriot Act, and now you're getting molested at airports. So this idea that we don't have an invested interest, or we don't have a desire to go into Iran, is foolish. The joke in Trump's first term was John Bolton wanted to go in for no reason. And yes, Mark, I get it. The Iranians are not good people. They have killed Americans. They are not good people. But what is the saying? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. What have people been saying about Iraq in the last couple years? Gee, Saddam was actually pretty good at keeping all those groups together. And we really didn't get a lot out of going in there and toppling him, did we? You can look, I don't think the Iraq conflict, Operation Iraqi Freedom, was very successful. And I don't think we spent an inordinate amount of time, blood, and treasure to do what? So I think it is a valid question. Do you have a Google search basic knowledge of a country that you want to blow up and overthrow? And by the way, it's understandably, for those of you that are coming in now, the reason why I'm worried about this is because I have a feeling that Trump is being presented with a solution under his unconditional surrender and permanent solution, or a real solution concept, that the only way to ensure a real solution in Iran is with a regime change. I know everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. And by the way, if there is no regime change and in 10 days this all works out and there's nothing happening, I will be the happiest man here. I will praise Trump for getting this deal done, because he is threading through the eye of a needle right now between blowing up Iran and trying to get a deal done. But I don't think he can do it anymore, because I think the Israelis launched the strike to drag us into this. And now they're expanding. Oh, what about the proxies in October 7th and all these other kinds of things that happened? Why don't we need to take them out? Why didn't the Israelis blow the Iranians off the map on October 8th? They launched a bunch of missiles and they called it a day. So that, by my definition, that whole thing is closed. That does not count in this lead up. Not the Louder with Crowder guys were lumping in October 7th with this. October 7th happened. They exchanged missiles. And then that was it. So guess what? That is a closed chapter of that conflict. They did it. They responded. That's it. And then there's been a couple things. One side launches, one side starts, the other side launches missiles, and that's it. They're expanding out the case to say, we need to go in. We need to take out the Iranians. Iranians can't have a nuke. I don't think they should have a nuke either. Not with a crazy Islamic leader. I'll give you that. But there's got to be other ways. They haven't gotten a weapon in 40 years. They have not gotten one in 40 years. And a lot of the podcast media has turned around really quick. And that's also a great point, Mark. Who does have nukes in this situation? The Iranians don't have nukes. The Israelis do. It's called the Samson option. They brag about it. Well, we'll use the Samson option if anything happens. So also, if and that's why my fear with this whole thing, 90 million Iraqis who fought tooth and nail in the 10-year Iraq war, they fought to the death in that war. And they were unencouraged. And didn't we help the Iraqis in that war? Did we assist Iraq in the Iraq? Ooh, my spelling is bad. Iran war. I think we did. I think we provided assistance to the Iraqis during the Iran-Iraq war. And yet the Iranians fought to the death in that conflict. So yes, it's important to know how many people are in there, because when we're forced to put boots on the ground for your ultimate solution or your unconditional surrender to occupy the nuke sites and the oil fields and Tehran, that's going to have to be a thing, because all 90 million of them, they're believers. And I know Ted Cruz has another part in this interview we don't have, where he says, oh, well, the Iranian people will rise up. Doesn't that sound a lot like they'll greet us as liberators? Or the Arab Spring that Obama was really happy to just sit back and let happen? Yeah, we talked about it before you came in, Cesare. Putin has come in, and I'm sure he has, and he said, listen, Putin has said, listen, if you destabilize Iran, it's going to be awful for everybody. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So that's my first retort to Gerald, who's not listening, and I get it. And he did go back and forth with me, and I do appreciate it. He took the time to at least respond to my post. And everybody that's saying it's such a gotcha question to ask about the amount of people in Iran. If we are entrusting these 100 senators from these 50 states with the power to authorize the U.S. military, because guess what? I know a lot of people, Mark Levin's one of them, thinks we don't have to have Congress pass a resolution to go to war. We still kind of technically do. I know you have the authorized military use of force doctrines, but if you're giving these 100 senators the keys to the most powerful military on this planet, I think they should know something. I think they can't go, I don't know, and then it'd be completely washed away. And that was a problem I had with a couple people I had some exchanges with today. Well, why do they need to know the population? Because they're supposed to be our betters. They're supposed to be representing us. And if they're going to be doing these kinds of things, they should have some kind of knowledge, except Iranian are bad. And we know, Ted, $1.8 million Cruz from APAC. Anyway, here's the rest of it. Let's just reset, because I've been talking for a minute.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay.
And I know Crowder was like, well, that's a question. Even if you said 100 million, he would have said no. I actually don't think that. I think if Ted was like, I think it's around 100 million, Tucker would have said, yeah, you're close. It's 92. And that would have been it with that. At least there's some kind of basic knowledge. What the hell, and I'm sorry for cussing, do these people do all day in Congress? What do they do?
Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing.
Why are we giving elected officials a pass on not knowing things? He's on there, and him and 52 senators, right? Ted Cruz and Republicans back Israel with letter. I think there's something. Him and 52 others actively supported it. 10 other senators stating the U.S. would fundamentally reevaluation. He said multiple times that we need to, and he said a majority of Republican senators in Congress support Israel. If you're going to make that claim, you got to have a basic knowledge of stuff.
Memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
And this is another, it's a gotcha question. What does it matter? It just matters that they're Shiite. It matters because if it's not 100% Shiite, you're getting civil war. And also, just because the majority is Shiite doesn't mean that every single one of them is on board. You get rid of the leader who's holding everything together. There's going to be a power grab, just like in Afghanistan. Did the Afghanis follow the installed leader that we put in there? By the way, that guy was super corrupt. Did they follow him? No, they did not. He was feckless and useless. And by the way, who's in control of Afghanistan now? That's right, the Taliban. Took 4 presidents to get the Taliban out and the Taliban back in. So, and in Syria too, 100%. You guys are getting where I'm going, and I understand you guys are pretty much on the same line of thinking that I am. Like, what are you doing here?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even. You don't know anything about Iran, so
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
He's and let me just
senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one
and they're making fun of the Tucker laugh. Yeah, maybe that's a little cringy, but the point still stands. You people are trying to convince President Trump to go in and blow up a country, and you can't give another reason except Israel wants it. If you're going to engage in this, which is going to cost billions of dollars and millions of American lives, then what? Then can you at least vocalize some ideas? And yes, we're going to be greeted as liberators. The country's going to rise up and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. We've heard this speech before. But Greg Gutfeld tells us we should put all that aside and just trust Trump. I don't trust any politician. And I don't trust anybody that tells me to trust a politician.
I don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump?
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help.
Now, Crowder and a bunch of other guys came in and said, listen, we've been helping them for a while, so this isn't any breaking news. I think that might be a bit of a cop-out because there's a difference in protecting, right? We were assisting in shooting down some of the missiles and things like that and whatever. But actually, offensive strikes?
I said Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
High
stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. I think it is. If you're gonna let the cat out of the bag, then you should know these kinds of things. And Trump has gone out today and said, I don't have any of those clips. I should have, but he said, I've talked to Trump, or I've talked to the Iranians. They're talking to me. The Iranians have requested multiple times now that they'd like to sit down and talk with Trump in D.C. Trump said before he would meet with anybody without preconditions. Why the change now? If there's a possibility for peace, why the change now? I still believe Trump is a peace president. I believe he is backed into a corner because the Israelis fired off that attack without, he may have agreed to it. I don't think he agreed to the actual start time. It's being reported that he agreed to it now, right? With this article right here that he agreed to it. And I think this is just cover. I think this is just cover. That, oh yeah, I knew it and I approved of it. That, because he doesn't want to throw anybody off the stage. And secondly, he doesn't want to appear weak. Because the word comes out that Bibi just launched this strike without telling them, he would appear weak and feeble. And Trump does not want to do that. So he's like, fine, I did it. I approved of it. But there's something here from the Jerusalem Post that scares me to death. Because this is to the people who say nobody is calling for boots on the ground. It's from the Jerusalem Post today. And I get it's an opinion piece, but there is a lot of thought behind this. There's a lot of thought in the places where Trump listens to and in the halls of power that they want to dismantle the regime. And he lays out his case. What is the first thing that this person, he needs to take decisive action with Iran, embrace the regime change as policy. People are arguing that the regime change should be embraced as policy. That's why I am arguing do whatever it takes to avoid a conflict, because we are going to get dragged into a regime change. Because let's say it'll start with bombers, like Mark's been telling us really correctly in the chat, right? We got bunker buster bombs and all these other kinds. Let's say we just wipe the floor with them. By the way, RIPs to the last Tomcats out there ever. Just awful just to see the Franken cats be destroyed. How Tom Cruise is going to get home, we'll never know. But this idea that it's going to stop there, the idea is once the bombing starts, that's blood in the water. I believe that is blood in the water. Meaning, well, now that we've blown up all the sites, Mr. President, how are we going to make sure that the Iranians don't rebuild them? And there it is. We need to embrace the regime changes policy to ensure that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon ever again. Mark Levin may be a psycho screaming on TV right now, but there are a lot of people that agree with him. Not the public, not a majority of the people that voted for Trump with no new wars. And people are once again conflating, they have now married, and Crowder and his team have done this as well. They have married the idea of Iran not getting a nuke with, we have to take military action. It's too late. Negotiations are done. They're bombing everybody. Everything's happening. We have to go. The Iranians, they had 60 days, and so they said no, so let's attack them. It is breathtaking, the speed at which this thing has changed from, I don't think Trump wants to get into any kind of war with Iraq. This was Monday. Your pundits were saying, I don't think we need to go into a conflict with Iraq. It has now changed dramatically to Iran can't have a nuke by any means necessary. That's essentially what the policy is now, by any means necessary. And it's frightening. It's frightening that this is now the idea that they're going with. And you have articles in the Jerusalem Post, and people are like, who cares about the Jerusalem Post? The people in Israel are demanding it. There are signs all over, Mr. President, finish the job. They're begging for the U.S. to go in. And there is an outsized influence of the Israeli government has an outsized influence in the Trump administration, not to Trump himself, but the Trump administration. And it's not fair. And it's not a correct assumption. I don't want to say fair because the only fair is up in Dallas. It is not a correct assumption for people like me or Alex Jones or even somebody like Posibic, but I don't know if he's turned tail on this or not, and others who have said, listen, you can't go to war with Iran. You can't, we're just going to bomb them. You can't, if you take even if you take a decisive back roll, even if you do that, that means your foreign policy, I said it last night, I'll say it again if you're here for the first time. If you do this, if you support Iran with airstrikes, your foreign policy is being dictated by another country. And it's not because I hate the Jews or any of these other things. It's the Israeli government that I'm talking about here. The Israeli government is trying to drag the U.S. into a war, and I think they got Trump in a position where it's going to be hard for him to say no at this point. They pre-positioned assets. They've moved things away from other theaters to focus exclusively on Iran. And people are coming after Tucker as if he's some kind of isolationist. I don't think Tucker's an isolationist. I think most of us don't want to get bogged down in another war in the Middle East. Pakistan has nukes. North Korea has nukes. Trump was more than happy to talk to the North Koreans. The North Koreans are launching missiles into the sea every other day. Right? At first it was, oh, the Israelis are doing it. The Israelis can handle it. It went from the Israelis can handle this to we need the U.S. to come to step in. We need your military assets. We need the Moab. We need to get into these bunkers and blow up these sites. If you allow the Israelis to do that, then your foreign policy has been dictated by another country. It's that simple. And I believe, and some people are like, well, do you trust the Iranians? Is any other country going to trust us if it is true that Trump knew that the Israelis were going to attack and still try to talk peace with Iran? Right? Is any other country going to go into negotiations with the United States knowing this information that, oh, well, they said they were going to do this with the Iranians and they let Israel off the chain to bomb them? Now, some people are like, yeah, that means we walk soft and carry a big stick. I think that's bad policy. Oh, yeah. You want to solidify a base, this uprising that they're bragging about? Start bombing the crap out of Iran with U.S. jets. They will coalesce around their leaders so quickly, it will not even be funny. That's what you were saying before. Post-Iraq, 10 plus years, we're like, man, Saddam actually kind of had that whole place under control, didn't he? He did. Gaddafi had Libya under control, didn't he? Yet, we went into these places, yet we decided that we were going to spread democracy, quote unquote, because I guess we just need gay pride parades in Tehran. We absolutely need them. We need same-sex marriage in Iran. And so it's dangerous and I don't like it. And I think it is not great policy for, and this, it's not great that the MAGA base has been infighting. This could have been a fine debate, but it's become something where we're like, hey, we don't want any new foreign wars. Where they're going to get a nuke if you're too much of a wuss to do anything about it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And as a Catholic, especially, I don't believe in it. It won't be a just war. Now, Protestants and evangelicals and everybody else can beat me up for saying, oh, just war's not a right thing, blah, 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 and so forth. So it is what it is. And imagine that. Brian, what I've been saying too is, let's say you take out the leader of Iran. You've got 90 million people. You're going to have a power vacuum. So there will be infighting. There will be a civil war. They will not listen to the U.S. installed leader or the Western backed leader. They just won't, because they'll see him as a pawn for the U.S. You'll have that. You'll have a refugee crisis again that will spread into Europe. Israel won't take any refugees. They'll spread them out everywhere else. The Middle East won't take them, like they haven't taken any of the other ones. And they're like, well, the Saudis have come out and they said they don't want Iran to have a nuke. Yeah, I get all that. I do. But there can be a way to put pressure on them to not do it. But the coalition wants a war. They're using their influencers to push you into thinking that if you don't agree with it, that Iran's going to get a nuke and they're going to blow up Times Square. And it's just one of these things that is absolutely diabolical. And the Tucker v. Ted argument last night was the climax of this, where both sides have staked their position. And even Steve Bannon's we'll back the president on whatever he does. I won't. If there is any kind of military action in Iran, I will never vote in an election again at the federal level. Because it is proof that they're all compromised. And I am actually giving Trump the benefit of the doubt. I think he's been forced into this situation. I think he's trying to thread the needle, and I think that needle is rapidly closing because the Israelis are telling everybody. Because once again, Bibi lied within 48 hours. He went out and they said Iran has a nuke, and then he went on Brett Baer's like, it doesn't matter if they have one now, 6 months, 12 months. Whoa, you said they have one now. And Bibi's the one who told you that Iraq was going to be a prosperous nation after we bombed the crap out of them. But it is what it is in that regard. So if you don't want war, you're just a liberal wuss. You're just a wussy. So it's a shame. And I'm going to talk to Owen Schroyer after when I do my interview with him coming up in about 45 minutes. We're going to talk about the MAGA Civil War. We're going to talk about these two topics, and then I'll drop that interview on Friday, and it'll be available as well as others. So I'd rather be a wuss. I will live and die by the Mel Gibson position in The Patriot. I will live and die by that position. You petition again and again and again. Everybody who wants war, their kids will not be going to war. It's that simple. All right. I'm going to get through a couple more stories here real quick. So if you're here for the Israeli one, we're done with that. if you don't want to hang around, I get it. But I got three other stories that I'm going to get through pretty quick here. Because I always promise you 4 stories. This one happened this morning or yesterday or this morning. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on The View. And I know we don't like Arnold because of Screw Your Freedoms, but it was actually kind of funny that they brought him on because he's an immigrant and they were expecting him to walk and tow this entire line.
You're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was impressed by the American people like that.
Now, there are, Arnold's apologized for the Screw Your Freedoms thing. I think he's trying to win back support in that regard. People are stupid. People make mistakes. I've made a ton of them. So I can easily be like, yeah, you were dumb, but a lot of other people were. At least you can apologize for it. But if you actually look at Arnold's story, it's pretty impressive. When he came here, before he ever became a prominent film, the biggest action star in the world, he was a millionaire because he understood that America was a land of opportunity and you had to do it the right way. He invested in real estate. I think he made his first $1 million in parking lots in real estate and stuff before that. So he understands everything that this union of states can provide.
I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21 with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Yeah. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and this is the land of opportunity.
Now, they brought him on because they were hoping, like, he's kind of libtard, he's an actor, he's an immigrant. We're totally going to get some great sound bites of him pushing back on Trump, because he's pushed back on Trump too. So this is a perfect setup, right? It's a slam dunk.
And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote.
Now, this was the setup so he could promote this speech
at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech there. They asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in, and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great, great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is.
Did you hear that? Did you, when he said that, hear that legal? I'll run that back. Listen to the gasp. Listen to the gasp when he says you got to do it legally. It is almost worth it. It was almost, you could hear the air being sucked out of the room when he said that.
Same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing.
Love him or hate him, he's about to dunk on these five hags, and it's kind of funny to watch.
You know, so you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and they're the foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to...
You know right now, the lady to his right, I forget her name, she's having a meltdown. Whoopi doesn't know what to do. She's the producers in her ear being like, stop this, stop this, stop this. They're all frozen because this was not supposed to happen. Arnold did not tell the producers he was going to go off script like this, or else they would not have allowed it to happen. Now you're going to watch the girl to his left. She's the psycho. I forgot what her name is. She's going to try and do the control method that women do. She's going to try and put her hand on Arnold to try and stop him. And Arnold's a jerk. I get it. And all these other kinds of things. He just wipes that off. He's like, get off me, woman. And he just continues to go.
America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to
look at the hand. Look at the hand mark right here. This is a please stop. Please stop. I think everybody was in shock. You can't. I mean, Javier Bardem started talking about Gaza a couple of days ago and they cut him off. I think everybody was just like, what do we do? Because this was not supposed to go this way. This was not supposed to happen. And they tried to do their little passive aggressive things like, oh, Arnold, what do you mean? And he's just like, get off of me, woman. Get off of me. I'm talking.
Make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an
shock. These women are not used to having anybody come on this show and go against the narrative. And so they don't know what to do. And say whatever you want about Arnold. He's he's a legendary actor, right? Predator, throw mom, all these other kinds of things. He was a governor. He was actually a very popular governor in California, and he actually wanted to build the wall before Trump did, right? He's a well-known celebrity, and they don't know what to do. Say whatever you want about Trump, about Arnold, but he does have still a masculine presence, and none of these women know what to do with a masculine presence, because you usually have a nerdy guy like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm so sorry. They were hoping that they could get him to apologize, but I think it's part of his like not apology for the screw your freedoms thing. He's just trying to dunk on these women.
Immigrant to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics.
He's just mowing right through this sucker. He has not stopped at all in this. You got to give credit where credit's due. It's a great moment because these clucking hens didn't know what to do with him. And steamroll them on. Steamroll them. Get them.
Or whatever it is, make this country a better place.
Arnold, don't forget.
And they're like, I mean, the claps were like, do we clap? do we not? And so it was a good moment. I mean, whatever you want to think about Arnold's whatever you want to think, but it's still, because what do we all want? Whenever these clucking hens on The View start doing this, all the guys want to be there and be like, I just wish I could be on there just to be like, keep your mouth shut. And he did it by just being like, I'm not going to listen. I'm going to say what I want to say. And you say whatever you want, but it's a great moment. And it's one of these things that it's a pushback. And he's even though the accent's thick, remember the guy taught himself English when he got here. And he's not stupid. So he understands polling for deportations is at an all-time high. So he's like, yeah, this is slam dunk for me. I'm going to get this one easy. And these women who are pre-programmed didn't have a clue on how to respond to it. And it's a nice moment. It's a nice moment because we all kind of want to see these women on The View just kind of get it just handed back to them whenever possible. So good for you, Arnold. I mean, you're not all the way back, but hey, we'll take it when we can get it. All right, let's get to our next story of the day. Like I said, I'm going to get through these pretty quick because I got to get ready for my interview with Owen Schroyer from InfoWars. I'm going to be interviewing him at 7, and then I will have that interview for you on Friday. All right, real quick, ladies and gentlemen. The View does have an influence with Democratic women, and if you have this guy who they brought on, so they tacitly gave their stamp of approval to, and he does this, and they can't really push back. It's a win. It's a win, and I'll take him. All right, next story, something that shouldn't have even got to SCOTUS, but we'll talk about it. Supreme Court allows state ban on transgender transitional care for minors, which is a terrible thing to write that way. But U.S. Supreme Court affirms that minors shouldn't be butchered. And of course, 3 justices, and this time the actual 3 justices, Brown, Kagan, and Sotomayor, all said that, no, you should be able to mutilate kids because we hate children. But they said that the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 on June 18th, upholding Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care. Gender-affirming. The decision followed lawsuits like United States versus Skibbity Toilet, where plaintiffs argued that the bans violated equal protection. The ruling states that the bans apply based on age and medical condition, not sex, and returns policymaking to elected state legislatures, which is where it should have just stopped there. All right, ACB, she's on a winning streak right now. You got to give her credit where credit's due. Got to give her credit. Maybe she listened. Maybe she listened to the fact that we all called her an idiot. John Roberts said the ruling returns a question to the democratic process, while Justice Sotomayor said 40% of lifetime unending attempts are among transgender individuals. And guess what? Having them change their body parts does not alleviate them of that burden, right? What is RickCast's opinion on transgenders? They're people that have some kind of mental disturbance, and we as a society need to love them and tell them, listen, something's wrong with you. Doesn't make you a bad person. Okay? We'll help you through this, but this medical treatment that people are offering you is not the way out. It is a Band-Aid on a flesh wound. It won't solve your problems. The way to solve the problems is to confront them head on through either religious counseling or correct psychological counseling and helping these people out, not abusing children so mom can go on Facebook and have everybody congratulate her on how progressive she is. I mean, Munchausen syndrome, right? Isn't that Munchausen by proxy, I think is the phrase, where people are saying that, oh, well, my child, my son was playing with Barbie dolls. The first question should always say, does he have an older sister? Yeah. So the only thing he has in the house are Barbie dolls? Yeah, that's why he's playing with them. Oh, well, my daughter, she dresses like a boy. Yeah, you know what we called them in the 90s? We called them tomboys, and most of the guys actually thought the tomboys were pretty cute. Don't get it twisted. So most, there are a lot of women now, like, I was a tomboy when I was in, junior high, and thank goodness my parents didn't put me through this, because now I'm a woman and I enjoy being one, and so forth. But the idea that this is supposed to go to SCOTUS, it should have never gone there. The ruling allows 26 other states with similar bans to enforce these restrictions, increasing the scrutiny of medical practices for minors. Minors should not be touched. It's that simple. If you don't let them get tattoos and you won't let them hold a gun and you won't let them vote, then you shouldn't chop off stuff. You shouldn't. It's that simple. It's just absolutely, it's good that this decision came down, but it's also kind of gross that, that it had to go to SCOTUS to actually do it. All right. Last story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, because I spent most of the time talking about, Tucker v. Ted, which is the thing everybody's really talking about today. But Reacher star details a chance meeting with Joe Biden on the set of the fourth. Now, I watched season 3 because Steve Cunningham told me it was fine. And I was like, all right, I trust Steve. It was bland. I mean, the Reacher series has gone downhill, and Alan Richardson I guess he's allergic to money because he is it goes to show you that having muscles does not mean that you are a conservative. Anyway, on Monday in Philadelphia, former U.S. quote-unquote president visited the Reacher set alongside his son Hunter. I wonder why they visited a Hollywood set. Maybe Hunter needed to find his buddy. Biden's followed a public announcement about aggressive prostate cancer diagnosis. The Bidens had breakfast at the nearby restaurant, blah, 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 and had an hour chatting with Alan Richardson, talking about stuff. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is the best. The only other story in entertainment news today was that Tom Cruise is getting a lifetime Oscar. It was either that or this. I probably should have gone with the Tom Cruise story, but just further proof that actors are stupid. And you shouldn't really listen to anything that they have to say because most of them are dumb. And Alan Richardson, do you have it? If you follow me on X, can you send it to me on X? Because I have no, I haven't. There's, the thing about X is there's so many tweets or posts every day that I missed it. If you want to send it to me, I'll take a look. I haven't seen it. But to just wrap up this story, Alan Richardson's an idiot. He's going to be liberal. And if you don't like the Reacher series, I can tell you after season 1 that it's gone downhill after here. After that first season was great. The following seasons have all been pretty much garbage, and this pretty much proves that as well. All right. Well, that is it for this episode of RickCast, folks. I know I kind of sped through the last couple stories, but I wanted to do so because I want to make sure that I have enough time to get ready for my interview with Owen Schroeder from InfoWars, which will be happening in about 20 minutes. I'm going to be interviewing him, and then I'll have the interview for you on Friday. What's going to happen is I'll do a quick roundup of the stories of the day on Friday, and then we'll have the interview for the rest of the show on Friday. So tomorrow's show will be normal, and then tomorrow's my double dip because I'll do that, and then I'll do News from the Pew with Steve Cunningham. So tomorrow night we'll be back 6 p.m. Central Time. The reason why I went early is because I need to be out of here right now so I can get ready for my interview with him. And then on Juneteenth, on Juneteenth, Michael, we'll be back at 6 p.m. Central, normal time, normal show, and then we'll do the show with Steve Cunningham. We'll do News from the Pew then. All right, folks. I will talk to you all tomorrow here on RickCast. Do me a favor on the way out. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell to help the show grow. Leave a comment down below if you can. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me. God bless. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.